We'll start it off with the big news in recruiting yesterday, and we talked a little bit about it yesterday. Every time I come to the Culotta show, all they're talking about is NIL. Yeah, well, that's what happens.
It works.
In Louisiana, when you got talent like Derek Williams, and you got talent like Arch Manning, and you got talent like Eli Holstein, and you got talent like Jaden Osbury and Shelton Sampson and Tackett Curtis and all these prospects that are high-end players, it's going to attract college coaches from across the country. And the University of Texas has come in here over the last 4 days and taken the number one quarterback and the number one safety, arguably in the country, without question, in the state of Louisiana, and have gotten their commitment. Now, people are asking, what are the numbers? How much money? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation out there, but it's a lot. I can tell you that. I can confirm that Texas is ready for the assignment, a lot like we talked about with Texas A&M during last signing day. Texas saw what Texas A&M was able to do, and they're able to play under the same rules within that state that A&M is playing with, and they've got just about as much money as A&M does. So it's a spending spree right now in Texas on five-star recruits, and they are raiding the state of Louisiana at the top. Derek Williams, you could see LSU's actions over the last couple of weeks and months leading up to this. K. Darty is a safety Michael Doherty is a safety out of Georgia that they took a commitment from during the early signing or during the early recruiting period, and then Tate from Texas, the safety, is it William? Justin Tate, maybe they took two safeties.
Ryan Yates.
Ryan Yates and Darty. They took two safeties in this cycle early on, which I think was a sign, and them kind of showing you that they didn't feel very comfortable with Derek Williams. They didn't feel like they sat in a good spot with Williams. Now, I do know that they had to replace and replenish the safety position in this cycle, right? Like they were going to take they were going to take multiple. They were going to take more than one at that position. Obviously, Williams was number one on the list, but by the way that they were taking commitments early on in the process, usually when there's a high-end player like Derek Williams on the board, and you've got other safeties that are interested in playing for LSU, you usually tell those guys that are rated lower than Williams, just hold off for a minute. You got a committable offer, but we're going to take Williams' commitment first just so he knows that he's the top priority, right? Like if you remember Leonard Fournette's senior season, they didn't sign another running back the year before that because they wanted to send the message to Fournette that they were putting all of the recruiting eggs into the Fournette basket. They were making a move at him to show him, like, you're the guy. And after Fournette committed and signed with LSU, they took Darrell Williams because they had to get multiple running backs in that class to make sure that they were going to have the depth. When I saw, at least from my experience in covering recruiting, when I saw the two safeties commit early on in the process, I got the feeling that they don't feel like they're in a good spot with Williams. And I know that there was ground that had to be made up when Brian Kelly was announced on, in January as the next head coach. And, I know that Williams was a top priority for LSU. But this is a hit. This is a hit for your defense. This is your state, again, getting their top players, another five-star leaving. I don't think anybody anticipated the quarterbacks, Eli Holstein and Arch Manning, ever to land at LSU. I don't know if there was ever an expectation that they were going to land either of them. So when they commit to Alabama and Texas, yeah, look, it's annoying, but it's expected. When Derek Williams pledges to the University of Texas and states that he's 1,000% committed on his social media, that's a different message, right? I mean, that hits a little harder. And this is going to sting LSU. This is going to be a player that LSU is going to have to play against during his eligibility and potentially, could haunt them by the time LSU runs into him. And to lose players from Westgate High School in back-to-back cycles that is in, the nucleus of LSU country. I mean, you ride down to New Iberia and that part of the world, you see LSU flags flying on everybody's front porch. And that doesn't mean that the kids in that community are guaranteed to go to LSU. It's just tough to get out of there. And to lose a kid like Danny Lewis to Alabama and Derek Williams to University of Texas in successive recruiting cycles, that's got to send a message to LSU.
It's open season is the message it sends to me, right? Then that would it feel like that anybody can kind of come into Louisiana and get whoever they want. They're plucking the best players, the guys that you used to be able to say, like, remember when Jamar Cain came on here and he would say, "Oh, we can't get him." Like whenever he's like, I had to recruit nationally because anytime I saw a Louisiana defensive lineman, I knew he was going to LSU. That has changed. That tone has changed in 2 years. It is open season on LSU right now, and they're plucking the best talent out of the state. Whenever it's only getting better. And sure, you can go and take 3- and 4-star guys from different parts of the country, but Ed Orgeron did one thing right. He knew that you would recruit Louisiana first, and that has gone by the wayside. And it should terrify LSU fans. If you can't get that right, you ain't gonna win. Because what was Brian Kelly's calling card? Oh, he can win at Notre Dame, but what would he do with Louisiana talent? That's why he came to LSU, to come play with the talent here. Well, if you don't get the talent, then you're just building a Notre Dame in the South, which will get run over by Alabama 41-10.
No, it's going to be it'll be interesting to see how LSU reacts to this because this has got to buzz the tower of a lot of executives within LSU football, a lot of boosters within LSU football, a lot of administrators within LSU athletics of if you don't get the collective right with NIL, this stuff is going to start becoming every season. This is going to be a cycle that happens every single year because the reason why they're being able to make these inroads and make these relationships so suddenly is because they're talking money. And that's just the facts of it. I mean, Danny Lewis was dancing with Brian Kelly and thinking he was going to be the starting tight end for LSU during his freshman season at some point, and Saban swoops in with a $25,000 NIL deal, and LSU wasn't prepared for that and lost a tight end. I mean, you heard Mike Denbrock last week when he sat down here and we asked him about the tight end room. I mean, he took a deep breath and said, look, we got a lot of work to do. I mean, it wasn't as if they were selling it's a loaded room and you're going to have tough time, cracking the lineup. They were telling Danny Lewis, who wasn't prepared to play as a true freshman, you're going to have to play. And Alabama just came in and said, here's $25,000. Come sit the bench and you'll never play a down in Tuscaloosa. Okay. I mean, Derek Williams is the type of prospect that Kayshawn was on offense when he was coming out of Westgate. For as high end of a player as Kayshawn was when he was coming out of high school 3 years ago, Derek Williams has the same type of cachet. I remember when Kayshawn committed to LSU, they were talking about a freshman defensive back that LSU was going to have to land in Derek Williams. They've been working on that relationship since then. New staff came in. One of the first stops they made was going down and checking on Williams. And look, it happens where you swing, you miss, you put a lot of effort into guys, but now you're talking about this recruiting cycle where you got, the top players in this cycle right now where the number one player is Arch Manning going to University of Texas. You got Eli Holstein, who's considered like 1A when you're talking about the prospects. He's going to Alabama. Derek Williams is going to Texas. Jaden Alsbury feels like it's going to be a fight to the death between LSU, Alabama, Notre Dame. Tackett Curtis doesn't feel like he's coming to LSU. Lance Hurd out of Neville feels like he's trending towards LSU. He's a must-get. Amarian Miller was a guy that was committed to LSU. He's decommitted. I mean, some of that's the top 8 players. Shelton Sampson's in there. LSU's trending in a good position for him, but they're going to have to fight Texas A&M, Alabama, and Georgia. I mean, that's the top players in the state. Last year, think about what happened to the top players in the state. The only ones that they landed out of the top 5, 2 big ones, huge ones, Will Campbell and Walker Howard, but Aaron Anderson, Shaz Preston, the rest of that crew is leaving. It's rare where you see Louisiana, LSU miss on the top 5 guys, the majority of the top 5 guys in their state in successive years.
But LSU has missed on plenty of Louisiana players before. Saban has played
Not
players
like
out
this.
here.
Not at
I
these,
mean, I know
not at these
this-
positions.
Not this many at one time, but this is like the gloomiest talk I've ever heard.
No, I don't think that it's. I don't think that it's gloom. What it
is.
is that LSU better change their direction
Well,
and how they're going to do this, or this is going to become ugly quick.
Yeah.
Because this is what you'll see in 2 years in Death Valley.
Well, right. But this is LSU. There is money here. There is a collective. There's Gordon. I mean, there are ways to fix this.
But this is what you'll see in 2 years at LSU against Texas when we don't get players from.
Is that Walker Howard?
I don't know, but he just decapitated
Yeah,
that
he
kid.
just killed that kid.
Wearing LSU gloves too.
Wants to be here.
No, LSU was sitting in a good spot for him at certain times here. You know, I mean, Frank Wilson made up a lot of ground. I mean, it's just, this is the real stuff of it, you know? I mean.
But every top prospect doesn't end up panning out.
He's going to be pretty good.
Usually
But
when
you
you
don't know that for
usually
sure.
when you
I feel pretty good
when
about
you're in the top
But you can't
5
bet on it.
when you're in
I
the top
would if I
5
could.
of when you're in the top 5 of Louisiana talent, and you have been since your freshman year in high school, you're a
So
easy
every
bet.
top 5 player in Louisiana talent, high
You can't
school,
throw
has
everyone in there,
panned
but the
out to
majority
be-
of them have.
Okay.
Especially at that
Majority
position.
have. Absolutely. I mean, I can't think of the last time a top 5 safety has come out of
just
this
think we
state and
should
not
be
been
more positive.
not
Hootie?
been Hootie. Yeah. I mean, but you also back-to-back cycles where you miss 5-star safeties. I mean, at some point that's going to get you. You know what I mean? Like that is going to cost you if you're playing with a safety from Georgia that the University of Georgia didn't even offer in Michael Doherty. Sure, he can play. Not banging on the kid. Hadn't seen enough film on him to say whether he can or he can't play. But Georgia not offering him in his own backyard is telling. And then Jacoby Matthews is going to be playing for Texas A&M, and Derek Williams is going to be playing for the University of Texas. And they're from Ponchatoula and New Iberia, respectively. When LSU starts losing kids from Ponchatoula and New Iberia at positions that you have to have them, that you have to be able to land them, you know how easy of a recruiting pitch that is to a Louisiana kid? You're the top safety in the state. You'll be starting at LSU next season.
Best friends on the team.
I mean,
At Texas?
No, I'm talking about Kayshawn's Derek Williams' best friend. One of his best friends.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, Sean, call Gordon. Hook your
That's
bro,
what I'm
hook
saying.
your boy up.
Like, I mean, at some point, people are going to get mad enough. This is all about money. At some point, people are going to get angry enough and do something about it, right?
no, I don't know.
They have to.
LSU
don't know.
doesn't have it.
Some of the numbers
mean-
I'm hearing that they're paying Derek Williams, I mean, I don't know if it means that much to LSU boosters to step up and pay that money to one player. Right? I mean,
No, I feel like it means a lot to LSU boosters. This is LSU football.
yeah, but it doesn't mean as much as it does to Texas and Texas A&M boosters.
Jeez.
That's what's happening. There's not enough people within the LSU collective that can compete with the money that's already been collected in different college cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Texas
I mean-
and Texas A&M finally found a race they can win. Like, oh, we could. This is a
Right.
different track, as opposed to just
It
recruiting
is.
to a school. And then you go. If you try to recruit just to Texas and the Texas football program, go to Austin on a Saturday. They don't give a shit about
Yeah.
football. There's nobody. They got 1,000 things to do. That's easy to recruit against. But when
Right.
you say, "Here's $1 million to come play," and you're 18 years old, Austin sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Austin
Baton
sounds
Rouge used to
great.
be able to come to Louisiana on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Come see what it's like to play in front of 100,000 people when that place is thumping.
Yeah.
Now, for what? Ain't the same.
Your boy G1028. Geez, give BK time to build some relationships here in the state before y'all start freaking out. Let's revisit this after next year's class. Brian Burgess, sky is falling, sky is falling. No, it's not. This is just the reality of the situation. Brian Kelly has had enough time to build relationships and has enough people on staff to recognize that Derek Williams is a must-get, especially after you miss Jacoby Matthews in that cycle. If you don't think that the safety play is going to be down at LSU when you miss out on Jacoby Matthews and Derek Williams in successive classes, I don't know what to tell you. How much college football do you watch? It doesn't matter if it's Brian Kelly or Nick Saban walking the sidelines or Les Miles. If they don't have players, it don't matter. It doesn't matter. Good players make great coaches. Bad players get coaches fired. And if you can't get the good players at key positions, it's not going to work out. Especially when your competition is getting those players out of your own state. What are we debating here? The people in the inside of the chat saying, "Oh, give them time. It's not a big deal. Let them play." Are you serious? When's the last time that Louisiana has been rated like it has in the last 2 years? When's the last time successive recruiting classes, back-to-back cycles, have been rated at the top like the 2022, and it looks like the 2023 recruiting class is about to happen?
I mean, has it really been rated?
They missed out on the majority of the top 5. I mean, I can't remember the last time where LSU didn't have the majority of the top 5 committed to their school. You know, I mean, look, I'm not saying the sky is falling. I'm just saying you got to get those players if you want to compete.
Mm-hmm. So it's just about money now.
Yeah, it's all about money. It's all about money. It's all about, and that's what we've been saying for the last year, is that it's all about the money. Jacoby Matthews was crying to Frank Wilson the morning that he committed to LSU. Why are you crying, Jacoby? Because I want to come to LSU. Well, then come to LSU. I can't. Why? Because they got to take this money.
Yeah.
How do you compete with that? If you're not prepared to have the money conversation or be able to have those talks where you can make the money happen for somebody, what's your competitive angle? I mean, it's just the facts of where recruiting is right now in the state. Louisiana has always relied on their local talent to make them a national player. Have they extended out and gone national before? Sure, they have, and gotten some really good players at key positions to play at LSU. But even when you have players like Joe Burrow, who's the face of the program from Ohio, you've still got players surrounding him like Jamar Chase from New Orleans, Justin Jefferson from New Orleans, Clyde Edwards-Helaire from Baton Rouge. I mean, all the players, I mean, the majority of the nucleus of that team, Patrick Queen, Livonia, Grant Delpit, New Orleans, Derek Stingley, Baton Rouge. I mean,
Kerry Fulton, Christian Fulton.
It's the majority of Louisiana kids that are usually the faces of championship runs for LSU. Think about all the national championship runs that they've had. I mean,
I feel like I need to see a list of the top recruits from Louisiana for the past 5 years, where they ended up and how much they really panned out to be what you're saying Derek Williams is going to be.
I think you should defer to Jordy on that. That's pretty much what he's telling you.
I mean, Chance Babin says let BK do his job. Player development is his calling card. So, I mean, there's that, right? I mean,
yeah, go ahead and develop players, but it's easier to develop Jacoby Matthews and Derek Williams over Michael Daugherty. You know, that's Nick Saban went 7-5 his first year in Tuscaloosa, or he went 5-7 the first year. He had a terrible record his first year in Tuscaloosa. You know why? He had no players. He had no players. Nick Saban was still the best coach in college football in 2007. It didn't matter. He didn't have players. When players showed up, he became the best coach in the country.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find the positive, y'all.
I mean, look, there's real life to it. It's not doom and gloom. It's not that you can still be successful. It's harder to do it if you're not landing your own talent. Mm-hmm. If they don't figure out a way to keep in-state talent at LSU, then it's going to be an issue for Brian Kelly. Well, maybe not in year one, maybe not here in the early days, but at some point, this is going to catch up with you. You cannot continue to lose. This is what was happening to LSU under Jerry DiNardo. This is what happened when Nick Saban got here and said, why are y'all letting Ed Reed go to Miami? Why is Anthony Spencer going to Michigan? Why are all these high-end players leaving the state? Get these guys to stay in state, and you should have a monster on your hands. Mm-hmm. Saban gave you the blueprint. Build the fence around the state, which is why when he got to Alabama, he said, I'm going to Louisiana.
Yeah, got a key card.
And, I mean, now it's become open season on Louisiana because of a collection of things, compounding of things. LSU's not prepared in NIL world. They're going through a coaching change, and they're still trying to get their feet underneath them. And other programs are so much more prepared for these conversations and to have these types of recruiting trips where they're just landing these players. Derek Williams was on an official visit in Austin this weekend. What do you think happened?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, like, why do you think he committed Monday morning when he got back from Austin?
Still might be there.
I mean, use your imagination.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they were just showing him a good time in Austin, which they did. And then there was a business meeting at some point that said, okay, Derek, if you commit now, we'll pay you X. And then once you show up to Austin, we're going to give you Y. Nobody else is competing with that. Nobody else is putting that type of money in front of his face. Hell, I'll just commit right now. Perfect. We got a graphic for you ready to go.
Well, so that means nobody's going to be any good except Texas A&M, and Miami.
No, it's shifting.
Alabama.
USC.
They don't have the money. They don't have that kind of money. They don't have Texas money.
Katie.
Alabama
has whatever he wants.
I know he has a lot, but Alabama doesn't have Texas money.
They don't, but they have
Nick Saban.
They have Saban, who is that's what Saban was doing in that room that night.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't taking a shot at Jimbo.
Right.
He was taking a shot at his own boosters.
Well, yeah.
He was telling
Which
him
needs to happen here.
If you don't catch up, but nobody has that voice that people will jump. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, it's cool to meet Brian Kelly, right? But if Brian Kelly told you to cut him a check for $500,000, 7 out of 10 people would probably be like,
right, not this year.
Yeah, not yet. If Saban tells you I need a check for $500,000 and he asks 10 people, 12 people are cutting the check.
Right.
For $750.
I mean, that's what he was really complaining about in that room was, if we don't get buy-in, if you all don't start to pony up, well, Texas A&M's just going to keep buying their class.
Yeah, but they can easily.
So
I mean, how unfair is that?
Well, we can complain about fair all day in college football. It doesn't matter. That's the rules.
Yeah. And
the people that are prepared for it, like Texas A&M, Texas, looks like Miami's got their stuff together as far as an NIL world goes. I'm with the crew. I think that whatever Saban wants, he's going to get. He may not be able to get as much money as Texas and Texas A&M can put up, but he's not going to lose players in an NIL world. It didn't come down. It didn't come down to an NIL deal for Arch Manning.
No,
right? It looks like Sarkisian just kind of won the recruiting war. Like, he was able to put the work in, and his quarterbacks coach did a really good job.
But we've been talking about that forever.
Yeah, I talked to Brandon Harris, who's on their staff over at Texas. They talked about the resources they put towards Arch in recruiting, and they recruited their ass off to get Arch.
We knew he was going to Texas, though, for a long time.
I don't know if you knew, but you
assumed.
Now that it's come out, it's evident to see why. But this is the rules in which college football recruiting is going to operate right now until it changes. I think that we've seen some push and try and regulate this stuff. I don't know how you put the toothpaste back in the tube at this point with everything that's already happened in this world and how it exists now, and how there's just such a lack of, a mechanism in place to be able to rule and regulate it. And until then, I still believe you'll see this type of stuff where, it's just a highest bidder wins.
Yeah.
Katie, for perspective, the class that won the national championship, LSU signed 9 out of 10 of the top 10 players in Louisiana.
Yeah.
So
That's what went and go back through. You can probably go back to the last 5 national champions and see the the rosters littered with Louisiana talent.
You can go back all the way to 2003. LSU changed LSU's temperature and tone changed in college football with the 2001 recruiting class. If you want to go back to we can go back to Kevin Falk and Falk coming to LSU when it wasn't cool to come to Baton Rouge. That meant a ton to start the momentum change for LSU. But what really put LSU football over the top and put it into the golden age of which it has been experiencing life for the last 22 years was the 2001 recruiting class that was headlined by Marcus Spears, Michael Clayton, and Marquise Hill. Look at the national championship game in 2003. Marcus Spears was the defensive MVP. He scored a touchdown. Michael Clayton was the captain of that team in 2003. He went on to be the 15th pick in the first round after his junior season. And Marquise Hill was a first-team All-American defensive end. Rest in peace. But it was Louisiana kids that were headlining LSU's national championship run. 2007, Jacob Hester on offense. Early Doucette on offense. Craig Steltz on defense. Glenn Dorsey on defense. Derry Beckwith on defense. All these guys, Louisiana bred. 2011, national championship game appearance. Think of that defensive backfield. Eric Reed, Tyrann Mathieu, Tharold Simon, Morris Claiborne, all from Louisiana. Reuben Randall on offense, Louisiana. Michael Ford, Louisiana.
Okay, Jesus, I get the point.
it's just the truth, kid.
2019
Got
national
it.
championship. Can't miss on them.
I hear you.
Can't miss on them.
I'm just trying to find some positive.
Can't miss on them.
It's
I'm
sad.
sure Michael Doherty can play. Michael Doherty can't run with Jacoby Matthews, or he can't run with Derek Williams. That's not banging on Doherty. It's just how high-end Matthews and Williams are, and they're 45 minutes away from the door of LSU football operations facility. Mm-hmm. And they're playing at Texas A&M and Texas, respectively. Why?
Money.
Because they paid them. And LSU wasn't prepared to have the conversation on how they can compete with paying those two players to get them to LSU. NIL's not that big of a deal. Okay. All right.
Whoever said that?
Well, I just every time I come to the call, all he's talking about is NIL.
Well, yeah, they don't want to hear it though.
Well, it's just the truth.
Well, it is the truth. Yeah.
Win with the talent you have.
Okay.
It's not the way it works.
Yeah, right.
You take your 3 stars against their 5 stars. See how that works out 9 out of 10 times.
Exactly.
Be that team.
It's just not.
Go play for the Advocare Bowl again.
It's not how it works, man. And it doesn't matter how good of a coach Nick Saban and Brian Kelly are. They're great coaches when they have good players.
Yeah.
They're average coaches when they have average players. It's just how it is.
I got it.
That's just how it works.
I feel like Lloyd's about to maybe have a stroke though.
No, I've just seen this happen before, and I know that
just-
I've lived this life already. I don't want to live it again. I thought it was very evident what you had to do to win in Louisiana, and it turns out that that message rings hollow for some. You can't come in here and change the way it works.
Adrian Bailey, Ed Reed, Miami, Reggie Wayne, Miami, Warwick Dunn, Florida State, Cordell Stewart, Colorado, Major Applewhite, Texas is getting back to the days of the 90s where Louisiana was getting raided.
Yep.
Look, man, there's no coincidence
The
that during
90s.
those times when the LSU was losing those players, they were swimming at the bottom of the conference.
I remember that.
History repeats itself.